Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched Entebbe, which is also known as 7 Days in Entebbe in other countries. This one is directed by José Padilha, who previously directed the remake of Robocop, which I noticed they didn't make any mention of in the marketing towards this film. Instead, they decided to focus on the fact that he directed Narcos, or some of the episodes in Narcos, which I have started watching. I got about 3 episodes in and I really liked what I saw, so I decided to stop watching and watch it again where I can really invest in it. I'm going to binge the shit out of that one day. His latest is inspired by real life events in 1976 when terrorists hijacked a plane from Tel Aviv to Paris and diverted it to Entebbe in Uganda, where they held their hostages for 7 days until the Israeli Defense Force mounted a daring rescue. So 1976 is before my time, and admittedly I didn't know this story other than it revolved around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, nor had I seen any of the other films which it is based on, so please forgive my ignorance. But I will say that this film does a really good job of explaining the context and explaining how these two German characters fit into the story, played by Daniel Brühl and Rosamund Pike, who are admittedly taking extreme actions, but they do believe that they are the good guys. They think they are humanitarians fighting for the rights of the displaced Palestinians. And indeed, their side of the film is adequately explained and explored in terms of character arcs and character motivations, and both give good performances. Both have varying degrees of doubts and regrets, which I will come back to later. This is interspersed and juxtaposed with the Israeli government's decision to either negotiate with the terrorists or send in this daring rescue mission, and all of the politics that go with that, primarily focusing on the defense minister and the prime minister. And that side of the film is also performed really well. It's when it's at its most wiggy. I mean, Eddie Marsan's character, I'm sure he's wearing prosthetics, which does make him look like he can't blink, but that's to be expected in these kind of films. Where this film really stutters for me is that it's got a third narrative which follows a young commando who's getting ready to go on the raid, and his girlfriend who's performing in this dance theatre production, which literally gets in the way of the third act. I just didn't get that metaphor. Imagine Zero Dark 30 with the end raid on Bin Laden's hideout intercut with scenes of opera or something like that. It would have sucked out all of the tension and suspense, and that's what happens in this film. And that lack of tension and threat is present throughout the entire film, which is surprising considering this is a hostage movie. Some of it, granted, is intentional. As I mentioned, Daniel Brühl's character is full of doubts over what he's doing, which does lead to him showing compassion or mercy, as he says it. But it also has a moment with Rosamund Pike's character where she wanders off to make a phone call, which is supposed to be this really introspective, reflective moment where she's full of regret. But it reminded me of a Simpsons joke involving Don Brogger. That's right, Don Brogger. I feel like I need to explain the Simpsons joke. So in one episode of The Simpsons, Bart steals a video game and gets caught by the store detective, Don Brogger, who takes him into his office. He says, "I'm going to call your parents," and he calls them up and says, "Mr. and Mrs. Simpson, this is Detective Don Brogger. That's right, Don Brogger. Your son's stolen a video game. That's right. I know, it's disappointing, I know. I hope you can live with the shame." He hangs up and goes, "They weren't in, so I left a message." That's right. So that's what happens in this film, sort of. Not to that extreme, but it just made me laugh. I know I shouldn't make light on a film which is based on real events, on a real conflict which is still happening to this day, but that scene just made me think of that comparison, which is a shame, because on a technical level this film is actually good. The cinematography combined with some good editing, there's some slick transitions early on. I liked the bold typography that they use. It's got a good score as well, which keeps the tempo up. But unlike films, say like Argo, where the tension just ratchets up to its big crescendo at the end, This film, it plateaus off quite early and just stays there. So that's my thoughts on Entebbe, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. Somewhere in there is a solid film, and it is interesting, but it's not thrilling. It is engaging, but it's not enthralling. As a visual history lesson, I can see this film being played at schools and colleges, but as a cinema experience, it does fall short. So thanks very much for watching my review of Entebbe. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like, and don't forget to share the Lave. That's right, Dan Braga. Subscribe.